joined with Simon Marcotte from Northern Superior. Simon, thanks for sitting down with us.
Anytime for you, my friend, anytime.
So let's start off talking about what's happening with the price of gold. It's been basically on an epic tear. This time last year, we were sitting down. We were pretty happy that the price of gold was up quite a bit. It's had a great 12 months since then. When you think about the price of gold, what's going through your head?
Yeah, so I mean, just in the last few weeks, we saw gold breaking out again, right? Once more, it made a new high on the last day of summer, which I thought was a nice setup for the fall. And there's a lot of factors that are pointing to a higher gold price and that's supporting the gold rally that we're in. But I think there's one specific reason as to why gold, started to break out in the last days of summer, and it has to do with tariffs. Because if I ask you what about QE, what do you know about QE? You will think you'll think about the QE that came on the back of the financial crisis of 2008. You'll think about QE of COVID.
Yep.
But the reality is that we have been living on this, Chinese QE for 25 years. This massive Chinese QE program of 25
Yeah.
years, because as soon as when the Chinese economy opened up, the Americans started to buy more from China. And the Chinese realized, and other Asian countries as well, by the way, not only the Chinese, but obviously China was the big swing factor. They started to play with the currency, right? So instead of letting their currency go up, they would print their own currency to buy the US dollar that was coming in exchange for the product. So then the Chinese would own this dollar, and in order to earn a yield on it, not only sit on it, they would buy a treasury with it,
Yep.
which
Yep.
bids up the bond, lower interest rate. So this 25-year-long QE from China led to this asset price increase in everything, in equity, S&P
Everything
5,
bubble.
and the everything bubble, exactly. So the tariffs now are reversing that, right? We're seeing the Chinese export less in the US. But what happened just a few weeks ago, just before gold started to really spike out, is it was finally the day where any imports below $800 started to be impacted by the tariffs as well, which is all Amazon, right? Which is huge. So as long as those tariffs continues, we are deflating this 25-year-long QE bubble that we really have been into. And I don't think there's going to be any change in those policies anytime soon. So it's just one of the reasons, as you know, I happen to be extremely bullish on gold. You and I have talked about this before. This is just one reason why gold will keep going up. But I think it is the reason why gold went up in the last few weeks.
But before we had you on, I think you had a number. I think it was $30,000 an ounce
Correct.
gold that you thought we were going to.
Correct.
That thesis is still playing out.
100%. And it's not unprecedented at all. And the point I've been making is it has happened before. That's exactly what happened in the 70s, when the last time that you had a currency debasement. And any investor out there, when you buy stocks of companies, right, you will value the stock based on the future profit of the company, which you see, what is that worth today? That's the price of the equity of the company. That's the price of the stock. But when a company is in free fall, when the business model is not doing right, they're losing the biggest customer, when the stock is in free fall, then as an investor, you will look at the book value of the company or the asset liquidation value of the company to establish the floor price. Well, the same thing is true for a currency. So when the equivalent of that is the gold reserves of a country are really the book value of its currency. So if you adjust for today's scenario and the amount of debt in the US system that you have right now, well, that's what it did in the 70s. Gold went to today's equivalent of $24,000 gold. And I'm only calling about the 30 because I think there's been so much more money put into the system since then that everything turned into a tsunami, right? I mean, the real estate, the S&P 5, the cryptocurrencies, there's examples after example of absolute tsunamis. And I think this is the next tsunami that's developing. So yeah, I think it's going to go higher than the levels we've seen in the 70s.
So something we've talked a bit about offline before is this whole idea of Bitcoin versus gold. And now we're sort of seeing a little bit of a paradigm shift in that Tether, who's often seen as sort of, I've heard some people refer to it as the clearing currency, but it's sort of
Did it?
that currency that kind of backs crypto. They obviously have reserves, and they're now using that in the gold space. We've done some videos on our channel, which you can check out on the Elemental acquisition of EMX royalty. But what's your take on seeing Tether step into the gold space?
So let me backtrack a little bit about my view on crypto first.
Okay.
So I, I will just say when the facts change, you can change your mind,
Yeah.
right? And I think that is a little bit what's been happening in crypto. I've never been a fan of crypto because it is the equivalent of the gold standard if we were going to rely on it. And the gold standard, ended up or led to the Great Depression,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, but if the administration of the United States would say, well, tomorrow morning the economy is going to be based on blueberries, well, I'm going to be bullish on blueberries,
Yeah.
right? So I think this really has many years to come to continue to develop. Now, the stable coin is something very different. So the stable coin is like your point of Tether is about transaction and clearing, and what stable coin really is, it is the resurgence of the euro dollar of the 70s, 80s, 90s. And the euro dollar was a huge market. So what is a euro dollar? Euro dollar was just a US dollar held outside of the US. So if the dollar is held outside of the US, then it's not earning interest.
Mhm.
It's not owning, holding a T-bills. It's just a dollar outside of the US. And that ended up being an enormous market because it was used for settlements with countries one another. So the stable coin is replacing, and it's really a resurgence of the euro dollar. So there's a lot of value for people to own these things just to work on settlements, right? So the stable coin, I think, will really continue to grow and surprise a lot of people in what it can accomplish. Now, as far as you mentioned, Tether, and also Tether is the biggest stablecoin company.
Yeah, in the world, yeah.
And now we're saying the crypto world led by the stablecoin companies looking into gold,
Mhm.
right? So Tether is starting to buy gold. It was announced today that Tether is buying 2 tons of gold per week, right? So that is going to cripple down to all the crypto investors to go, wait, maybe we should look at gold, because the stable coin was going to be backed only by the US dollar. And already, like, maybe we'll back it with some gold too, right? So so that's moving. And I thought that was a spectacular comment made by Tether when they said, "Well, if you think about it, gold is kind of a natural Bitcoin." And at this conference, we're all saying, "You don't need to think about it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, right?" So I think if the crypto world starts to look into the gold sector, then a conference like this will be a lot busier the years ahead.
So let's turn the discussion here to Northern Superior. You guys
Yeah.
recently did a financing for part of your portfolio. The focus of the company is on the Shibugamu Gold Camp, but you guys have a sort of, uh, I guess we call it company within your portfolio called On Gold. You guys recently did a financing, I believe it was 7.7 million.
Correct.
What can you tell us that's happening here? Maybe start off by setting the stage for what On Gold is and what it means for Northern Superior shareholders.
Yeah, so Northern Superior is really involved into two provinces, Ontario and Quebec. And we made the decision to split the assets of both provinces so that Northern Superior could focus exclusively on this business plan of the Shibugamu Gold Camp. And On Gold has now the TPK, the very famous TPK project
Yeah.
that used to be the heart of Northern Superior. So we did a spin-out company. It's a new listing on Gold, but now it's picking up a bit of liquidity. So it's really like it's not a baby anymore. It's starting to grow. But we never distributed the shares that we own of this company to make sure that we wouldn't hurt the share price. So
Sure.
we do the right thing, be patient, and that was the right strategy. So we still own, before the financing that you just mentioned, 56% of On Gold. And On Gold now, TPK, finally, On Gold is drilling at TPK. And people have been waiting for just about 15 years to see this property being drilled. So there's a lot of people that are very passionate and very enthusiastic about TPK. TPK is probably the world's largest golden till anomaly. A famous drill hole that came out of there, 25 grams over 13 meters. There's a boulder of 727 gram a ton gold. So it's about finding the source of all of this. But we wanted to do it right. We had the permits to drill for a while, but we always said we want to do this in partnership with the local communities and the First Nations. And we decided to have the right approach, the right type of management team. Kyle Stanfield, the CEO, has done a tremendous job, and he understands these communities a lot. Now we just announced an agreement with the Nibinimik First Nation, and now we are drilling the most exciting part of the TPK project. So that's why the stock of On Gold has really went up recently, and also On Gold has Monument Bay. So Monument Bay is just across the border, northern Ontario into Manitoba.
Okay.
You may remember a Mega Precious. So Mega Precious on Monument Bay, and then Yamana acquired Mega Precious for Monument Bay, and then Agnico ended up buying the Canadian assets of Yamana. So Agnico ended up owning Monument Bay. And then we approached with the idea of working on it, and they saw us as the right custodian for the asset, considering especially the team that we had in place for it. So we basically swapped the asset for 15% of equity. So Agnico is at 15%. There's a dilution from the recent financing. But Monument Bay, when we acquired it, had a historical resource of just about 3 million ounces, but at a gold price that was done a very long time ago. So Monument Bay, just reassaying and remodeling, plus all the new drilling we want to do, that resource could surprise a lot of people in the short term.
And talking about Northern Superior, you guys recently acquired, I believe it's Hazur, Monster Lake East, Monster Lake West, from Toma Gold. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, so remember that our business model here for the Shibugamu Gold Camp is to continue to consolidate the camp. The way I see it, in recent years, we had the camp of Yukon that has been doing well. That was after Gold Corp started making M&A, and it created a gold rush in Yukon. Then I see the camp of Guyana. When the Chinese bought Guyana Goldfields, it kind of brought a lot of attention to the camp. Finland, same thing. Agnico got involved in 2009, and because Agnico is a driving force in the space, then I think the market rewarded the drilling results of Rupert, fairly, because they know somebody is there to take things forward. So we think that the Shibugamu Gold Camp is the next camp to take off globally. And the driving force of that camp will be IAMGOLD, which has been doing tremendously well with the ramp up of Côté Gold in Ontario. So everything indicates that this is where they're moving next to develop the Shibugamu Gold Camp. So we have taken the opportunity the last few years to consolidate the camp and put it all together. And one point that's important is that all these ounces, all these resources in the camp are very close to one another. So the geology is perfect for a hub and spoke model if it's all together. So we thought if we consolidate the camp, we make the ounces more viable and they're therefore more valuable, right? On top of adding ounces with the drilling programs that we've done. So that's the core strategy of the Shibugamu Gold Camp. We continue to advance a pretty aggressive expansion drilling campaign at our main or flagship asset, which is Philibert. But to your point, we also recently made the acquisition of Monster Lake East, Monster Lake West, needless to say, on either side of Monster Lake of IAMGOLD, and then Hazur. So Hazur is really the western extension of the Philibert project. So if you look at Philibert, it was moving right into the neighbor. So it was obvious that it would be a benefit for us to continue drilling in that direction. It also adds a total of 15 kilometers on the exposure of the Gretchenville Fault, where Philibert is coming out of. But so, and already this morning we announced that there's a drill hole of 25 meters at 1.1 gram, more than 300 kilometers, 300 meters from our pit, right? So clearly the mineralization extends quite a bit to the west. So, and we already announced a lot of good drilling results to the east to extend, and we made a high-grade discovery at depth underneath our pit as well in the last few months. So obviously a lot of drilling success at Philibert. But one more interesting point about Hazard is we are starting to think about this camp getting all together and at some point getting built. So the location of the mill and the tailings becomes very strategic. You think about trucking distance, obviously, to establish the optimal location of a mill, but that's not the only factor, right? You want to have a ground that's very dry, that's solid. So usually it's a bit higher ground, so it's drier. And we see Hazard as one of the potential location for a mill and tailing facility for the entire camp. So I think there could be a lot of value in what we acquired there.
Okay, last question for you, Simon. If I'm an investor or I have you guys on my watch list, what am I looking out for over, say, the remainder of the year?
Yeah, so we've got more drilling results to come. We are maybe still a bit early to know exactly the timing of our next resource update, but we'll know that very soon.
Okay.
So we are currently working with resource modelers to start discussing what the next resource is going to look like. Obviously, when you put out a resource, you want it to be optimal, right? You're not going to put out a resource if by putting 2 or 3 more drill holes, it would actually add a bunch of ounces. So we'll make it, we'll know soon if we can calculate the resource on the back of the current expansion drilling program, or if we need to go back to the drill bit and make it an optimal resource. But there's a good chance that we can come out with a big updated resource on Philibert by year end. So for Philibert, that's the main thing. And then we also continue to add land in the area. We announced this morning that we added more land to the north of Chevrier, which is another project that we want to definitely go and build ounces. So there's still a lot of low-hanging fruit for us to build ounces. And now we are at more than, we have a lot of ounces, don't get me wrong, but the land matters as well. This is a land where there's going to be a lot of new discoveries being made. And we have now more than 70,000 hectares of land in the Chibougamau Gold Camp. So.
All right, well, Simon, it's always a pleasure getting to chat with you. I know our audience loves it. So thanks for doing this, and I hope you have a successful week of meetings.
Thanks. Appreciate it.